Hello there, thanks for watching my video. This is Matthew from Matthew North Music, and I'm just having a little flick through the paper because today there was quite an interesting little advertising thing, I suppose you could say. And what happened was David Gilmour had lyrics printed in various local newspapers in the UK, and the idea was that people that found the lyrics would then send them in, I think, or tag on social media, something like that, and then there was a prize of winning some deluxe box sets of the new David Gilmour album. But there were no lyrics in the Plymouth Herald. There was just a front page feature about pests and rats at the Royal William Yard, which is a very exclusive, posh part of the city, of which there's some also nice places to have your dinner down there as well. Anyhow, I have just listened to the new David Gilmour album, Luck and Strange, which I managed to get a preview of, care of a friend, and I just had a listen to it, and overall, I think it's a pretty decent record. Now, David Gilmour's been quoted in interviews as saying it's his best work since Dark Side of the Moon. Well, that's a pretty bold statement, because if you look at all the stuff David Gilmour's done over the years post Dark Side of the Moon, where you've got Wish You Were Here, you've got Animals, you've got The Wall, 3 absolutely magnificent records. But if you just take his own stuff, I mean, he did his first solo album in '78, that wasn't bad, it had some good tunes on it. He then did another album in '84. Personally, I didn't like it all that much. But then when he did his version of Pink Floyd, he made Momentary Lapse of Reason, which to me is an absolutely outstandingly brilliant album. And then he did The Division Bell, which I didn't care much for. It was not my thing, I didn't like it. But then he made On an Island, which I think is a really great record. And it has some standout tracks on it. I think Take a Breath is probably my favourite track on the album. And it's an absolute cracking, brilliant song. And then he made Rattle That Lock, which I also enjoyed. In fact, I've probably listened to Rattle That Lock more than I've listened to On an Island. And again, that's got some really, key songs on it. And the highlight for that is a song called In Any Tongue, which I think is one of the finest songs David Gilmour's ever done. Now, I suppose you've got to quickly mention, because, their careers do run in parallel. And yeah, a couple of years ago, I say probably a couple of years ago, it's probably about 6 years ago now, there was a new Roger Waters album. And I found that slightly disappointing. It didn't have any guitar solos in it. It had some good songs, but it had very not great production, I don't think. It certainly wasn't a patch on a record like Radio Chaos or Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, which I love immensely, and of course the absolute pinnacle of Roger Waters' solo career, Amused to Death. Both versions, although I have to say I prefer the latter version. Anyway, let's have a look at David Gilmour's album. So it's got 9 tracks. There are bonus tracks on various editions as well, which contain things like Yes I Have Ghosts, which was the single that he released during lockdown. And then there's another song called Luck and Strange, the title of the album, which started off as a jam, and the original jam is on there as a bonus track. So in a way, that's quite an interesting thing to listen to, although I've purposely not listened to it yet. I've just listened to the core album. So the album starts with a short instrumental piece called Black Cat. Now this kind of is standard for David Gilmour. Most of his recordings, all the 2 Floyd albums, On an Island, Rattle That Lock, they all start with, an instrumental solo guitar piece to kind of get you in the mood. And Black Cat's as good as any other one that he's done. It's a nice way to set the album. Then we get the title track, Luck and Strange. Now, this started as one of his barn jams, which was a thing he did in sort of 2007, where it was David Gilmour, Rick Wright, Guy Pratt and Stevie DeSanzo. And they were just jamming things in his barn in Sussex, and they filmed a lot of them and recorded a lot of them, and some songs got developed from it. And these things have propped up on the, I think there's a couple of tracks on the Remember That Night DVD. I think there was another one on the Pompeii, not the Pompeii, the Poland box set, the other gig he did from the On an Island tour, Gdansk. And then there was some more on the Rat Lat Lock box set on the Blu-ray for that. And there's another one on here. So I don't know how much more of this Barn Jam stuff there is. There probably is other bits and bobs. But anyway, the actual title track, Luck and Strange, is a very good song. It has a very strong vibe of the middle section of Dogs from Animals. It's kind of got that feel. And it's got a nice groove to it. And it's a good song. It's a good song. Then we've got Piper's Call, which many of you have already heard. It was released as a single a few months back. And again, it's a good, pleasant song, but the best bit of the song is the guitar solo at the end. And this is a theme running through this album. A lot of the songs are kind of verse, chorus, long guitar solo, end. That's kind of the structure for a lot of these songs. But in a way, that's kind of what you want from a David Gilmour. You want a good song, a good lyric, and then a great guitar solo. And that's what this album kind of delivers, really. We've then got a song called Spark, called Single Spark. Now, I don't like the start of it because it all sounds very compressed. It all sounds a bit Waller-soundy and a bit muddy. But then as the song develops, you got this lovely orchestration through it. And again, great guitar solo in it as well. So yeah, it's still a good song. And so far, this is coming up to sort of the end of the first half of the album. There's nothing I've disliked on this album at all. I've liked all of it. It's all pretty decent. Then we've got another Link track. I think it's Vita Brevis. I'll probably pronounce that wrong, but anyway, that's another short linking piece. And then that goes into another song again that came out ahead of time on the album. Now, it's hard to describe this without saying, is this a David Gilmour song or is this a Romany Gilmour song with David Gilmour on it? Because David's daughter, Romany, sings the lead vocals. She's got a very nice voice. It reminds me a lot of Lana Del Rey, and I'm a massive fan of Lana Del Rey's voice, so, you know, it sounds good. But it kind of feels like one of those songs that David's played on. For example, Pink and Velvet by Berlin, or more so, Are You Lonely by All About Eve. It very much sounds like a different artist, but with a Gilmour solo on it. And I kind of think maybe this should have been a Romany Gilmour track from a Romany Gilmour. I mean, if Romany Gilmour made an album with a load of songs like this, it would be great. And I guess Romany probably will at some point. But it's a good song, again. It's a good song. I like listening to it. I enjoyed listening to it when I first heard it. And yeah, it's great. Now, there's the next song is a complete contrast. It's a song called Dark and Velvet Night. And when I heard the intro, I thought, this sounds like the Gorillaz. It's kind of got that feel to it. And so it doesn't quite sit with the others, but you know, I still think contrast is good. I mean, a song like say Take a Breath off On an Island, that's very different to most of the rest of the On an Island album. Whereas this is, well, this is like a bit of a gear change, which is good because a lot of the songs on the album, they are very sort of medium paced, and so this sort of Gorillaz sounding track where it starts sounding like that and then it develops into a sort of, you know, more Gilmour fare. But yeah, that's definitely a gear change. Then track number 8 is a song called Sings, which is very much a love song, and it feels very a little bit retrospective, and you know, it's a very pleasant, nice song. And then the last track, now we always kind of expect a sort of big climax on a David Gilmour album or a Pink Floyd album, and I suppose the best example of this would be Sorrow on A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is, you know, absolute pinnacle of how to end an album. But this song's definitely got a nod to the past, not just in David's past, but in the past in general, because it starts with a piano going through a Leslie speaker, so it sounds like the piano on Echoes. But then in the middle, you've got this like middle section that's kind of almost got a feel of sort of, you know, 1920s sort of vaudeville, you know, Sunday night at the Palladium kind of feel. And then it's got like this nice ending to it. So it's a real sort of, it's one of those songs, I wish there'd been a bit more of this on the album, because there's more experimentation on it. And I kind of feel this track could have been longer. I mean, as it is, it's about 7 minutes long, but I kind of feel if it had been maybe 20 minutes long and it went through a few more cycles, it would have been a really epic track. But as it is, it's still a good song. So summing up, I would say this new David Gilmour album is a good listen. I've got a feeling it's probably going to get to #1 in the album charts, simply because on first release, they did the whole deal where if you pre-ordered the album, you get a pre-sale for buying tickets. Now, I just ordered the CD and I did get the pre-sale for the tickets, but I decided not to buy tickets to go and see David Gilmour. This is the first major tour by a member of Pink Floyd that I've not gone to see. Well, that's not quite true. I didn't go to Roger Waters' last tour either, but the reason I didn't go to that is because I felt musically it was very similar to the previous one, and I just didn't like the drummer in the band. And for me, bad drummer equals bad band. You know, I would, if Graham Broad had come back, I would have gone to see that show, you know, several times. But however, I did then go and see it in the cinema, and then I regretted not getting a ticket because it sounded really good. Anyway, this time round, £273 to go and see David Gilmour, I just felt was too much. I just thought I cannot justify spending that on a regular seat at a gig. Had it been, you know, front row at a bigger venue, even then, I still think it's too much. And it's the same that goes for a lot of concert tickets now. You know, I mean, I feel I've got a little bit of cash that I can spend on going to concerts and travelling. But when it gets to, you know, these really high numbers, nah, I can't do it. I just can't do it. But, you know, lots of people are going to go and see David Gilmour, and they're going to have a great time, because I've just seen Polly Sampson's done a Facebook update with some photos from the rehearsals, and David's got a great band. You know, Greg Fillinganes is back on keyboards again, Guy Pratt on bass, and, you know, really good people, and it's going to sound great. So, you know, good luck to everyone that goes and sees it. I shall watch the show, probably off a Blu-ray disc. Anyway, that's my kind of thoughts of this album, and dare say at midnight you'll all be listening to it yourselves, and you can all make your own mind up what you think. But that's my thoughts on the first listen anyway. So as ever, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.